Hello, Patriots. I'm Lee Watts, and this is Patriot Point, your source for Kentucky news and analysis from a conservative, Christian, and common sense point of view. Well, Andy Beshear and the Democrats nationwide are having meltdowns because the American people have chosen Donald Trump to be president.
I'm sorry. No! Why?
Yes, this is a perfect example of people who, when they were little kids, they would throw a temper tantrum and nobody ever taught them how to actually control themselves and act like a responsible adult. Now these people are grown and they're voting and we see what they're doing here. And the liberals have tried everything they could to stop Donald Trump, and yet the American people have said, listen, this is what we want. And we didn't vote for him because we're a bunch of Nazis or sexist or misogynist or any of the other things. We voted for him because of America First policies. And you know what? Democratic policies stink. It's cause for a terrible economy, a terrible border, terrible national security, and all kinds of other problems. But of course, now we have Andy Beshear among key Democrats across the nation who are trying to come up with a plan to stop people like Trump in the future. I found it very interesting that this week, Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, wrote an opinion piece published in the New York Times. Now, I think this is very interesting because when Andy Beshear is talking to the state newspapers, he's saying that he is only concentrated on being the governor of Kentucky, and that's his whole focus. Wrong.
If you've all got texts, please ignore them.
Just says wrong.
Yeah, well, just ignore that.
Wrong. Because we know Andy Beshear had applied to be Kamala Harris's running mate, and he didn't get the job. And now he's writing opinion pieces in the New York Times. And let's talk about what his plan is. Andy Beshear has come out here in recent days with a plan that he thinks will stop Trump-like America First candidates from getting into office. And what is his plan? His plan that he is starting to push is he thinks we should do away with the electoral college system on how we elect a president and instead just go with a popular vote. As a reminder to everyone, Donald Trump won both the popular vote and the electoral college. So he won both ways. But Andy Beshear and the Democrats think, well, if we can just go to a popular vote and get rid of the electoral college, we can stop people like Donald Trump. According to an article the other day in the Lexington Herald-Leader, Andy Beshear said this about going to a popular vote instead of the electoral college. He said, Kentuckians' vote would be sought by the candidates just as much as every other vote around the country.
Says wrong again.
Yes, Andy Beshear is completely wrong when he says this. If you did away with the electoral college and just went with the popular vote, then the votes of Kentuckians would not be sought at all, and we would lose our voice entirely in choosing the next president. And here, let me explain the reason why. Because Kentucky has about 4.5 million people. Do you realize that in Los Angeles County, just that one county alone, there are more than 9.6 million people. So if you went with by just a popular vote, instead of the electoral college where every state gets a stay, that just that one place, just Los Angeles, would have more votes than Kentucky, could cancel out every Kentuckian's vote, and then could do it again, and would still have more than 500,000 more votes on top of that. So if a candidate was going to be campaigning somewhere, they could completely ignore Kentucky entirely and just go to LA and get more than 2.5 times the votes in our entire state. It would destroy the small states' votes. Do you realize that if you got rid of the electoral college and went with just a popular vote, that just between Los Angeles, New York City, and Chicago, they would have more votes than all of the following states put together. These three cities would have more votes than New Hampshire, Maine, Montana, Rhode Island, Vermont, Delaware, South Dakota, North Dakota, Alaska, Wyoming, Hawaii, West Virginia, Nevada, New Mexico, and Idaho, all put together. Those three cities would have more votes than all of the people in all of those states and about 500,000 more. Is it really fair where three cities would have more say than 15 states worth of people. It's not fair, and this is why our founding fathers set up the electoral college system. And the electoral college system works this way. Every state gets a certain number of electoral votes, which is equal to the number of your senators and your representatives. We have in Kentucky 2 senators, and we have 6 representatives in Congress. So Kentucky gets 8 electoral votes. The electoral college system protects small states and doesn't let the big cities just run over this. And this is actually a principle that we see in the Bible. You want to look in the Bible in the book of Numbers, chapter 13, and in Joshua, chapter number 4, and multiple places in the Old Testament, where God would tell the people that they were to select certain people out of each tribe. It doesn't say that bigger tribes got to send more people and the smaller tribes got to send less people, because then the big ones could just run over the little ones. No, he said, let's do an equal number of things to spread this out so the small population tribes have a say in what is going on. It is a biblical principle for this instead of just mob rule. When they were writing the Constitution, they had the press back then too. And the press went up to Benjamin Franklin when they finished writing the Constitution, and they asked him, what kind of system of government have you given us? A democracy? And Benjamin Franklin, in his great wisdom, said, no, a democracy is 2 wolves and 1 sheep voting on what to have for lunch. You see, a popular vote is mob rule, where the people in just the big cities can control the entire country. However, we're not a country run by big cities. We are a country run by the states. And don't let Andy Beshear and the elitist radical left try to change that and have America run by these elitist big cities and taking the power away from we the people of the states. That's the reason the founding fathers set up the electoral college system to protect the states from just these big cities running the country. So don't let Andy Beshear and the radical liberal elitist left take that power and give it to just the people in the big cities. Well, that's the news we have for this week. So until next week, Patriots, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point, reminding you that liberty is not a spectator sport.